Halo teman-teman Urban Dukun, apa kabar? Terima kasih sudah datang lagi untuk mendengarkan kami di podcast kami Urban Dukun. Saya Karmen, saya adalah founder dari Urban Dukun. Dan hari ini saya punya tamu spesial Scarlett dari Singapura. Beliau datang ke Indonesia untuk memperkenalkan sebuah modalitas yang namanya energy shift dan insight. Tapi hari ini, podcast ini kami tujukan spesial untuk para perempuan di luar sana. Scarlett, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I was just introducing to the audience about what we're going to talk about today. And I was telling them that you are introducing to Indonesia a new modality called energy shift and insights. And that this podcast is a special one because we are making the offer, the service for our female and our ladies out there.
Yes. Yeah.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay, introduce myself. Well, my name is Scarlett, of course, and I'm from Singapore. I began this journey as a healing practitioner, in that sense, a healing coach, about 12 years ago. And it truly began because of my own journey when I became a single unwed mother. That was a big catalyst for this unraveling. And as we were chatting about that in our earlier episode, we actually had a conversation following, which we felt really deep about, that we want to actually maybe bring up a little bit more. Because I was sharing about how when I unraveled my journey that I needed a healing, and it was because of the deep fear and deep shame in my family because of this, this is someone from our family and she's one of 5 daughters and she's a single unwed mother. And because of my own need for healing, and when I unraveled that journey, actually one thing that I didn't share in the previous episode, which we shared later on, and we're talking about it, was that when I went for my own energy session, what the practitioner told me was, did your mom go through the same thing? And that went bing. That was something that has always been a curiosity in my family. When we were young, we just out of jest, it was a very innocent question. I remembered that we were asking mom, like, when did you get married? And then we were calculating my elder sister's birth date. And we were like, did you, how did you have her? When did you have her? And I remember mother was always, kind of skirting the issue a little bit. But we learned not to question, and of course life happens. We grew up, we were all busy with our own things. Nobody questioned it further. And when that happened, when I was in my first session to clear the fear from the family, the collective fear, and when the practitioner told me that reignited that memory, and it stayed with me a little bit, and I thought, I think so. And then it took a few years to unravel that confirmation, because there was once, it was just me and my mom and my baby in the room. And she was talking to me and she was lamenting that she felt really sad for me. Like, why did you do something so silly, right? And I remember that I was in a good space and I actually asked her out of jest. I said, did the same thing happen to you? And I smiled and I asked her that. And she was like, don't even mention that. So that was a confirmation. And she's like, I don't talk about it. Like, I don't talk about it with anyone. So for the longest time, not even my sisters knew, and we didn't talk about it, and I just kept it to myself. And even to this day, as we are doing this and I'm sharing this like openly, I have shared with friends, but I have never shared this openly. But I believe that maybe at some point, maybe energetically, we have already shifted out of it, and I feel like maybe my mother is ready to embrace this part. And I was sharing with a lot of people earlier as well that sometimes these kind of things need to come to light, because I have been the one to break this pattern of shame in my family. And I had to go through it this way specifically. But imagine if a lot of family secrets were not kept undercover but brought to light, how so many people can skip that and just move on to the next thing and just be ourselves. So this is an important episode, I feel. And then we also further shared certain things that you were sharing with me that you hadn't shared before openly. So I'm not sure if you're ready to also maybe share with the audience a little bit about what you do on that.
Okay. Well, we don't share out loud to the audience that we do have, I wouldn't say a service, yeah, but as I was living in Bali, I learned that there are rituals to help heal these wounds. Of course, I'm coming from a place, as I'm saying that, my voice disappeared.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Yeah. Strengthening myself to my own voice.
And to share like what's available,
yeah,
right? We're just sharing what's available, and yeah.
Yeah. When I moved to Bali 5 years ago, I came across these healing rituals that actually part of the Balinese tradition. But the Balinese that I know, most of them could not differentiate which one is religion and which one is tradition. And somehow the first thing that when I was there, I wanted to know which one is religion and which one is tradition. Because I felt if it's tradition, then it's safe to share, right? And this one is particularly important because they have a tradition to help a soul of unwanted babies, aborted babies, to pass on. And thus healing the mother. And after I learned of that, I learned that there is another ceremonies, there's another ritual that is designed for children who were born out of wedlock. And I felt these two are so important because it answers this circle that healing happens in so many layers, including spiritually. Yes, I remember learning from you that energy shift in the mental world, in the limiting belief system, when it comes to the soul, that's when there are more things, right?
It will support, there are more things. There are definitely a lot of different traditions. And I feel that whatever we're drawn to, we should definitely explore that. Yeah, because the soul is, one of the tradition that I am learning from, and they say that real healing is soul healing. Yeah, because we all come into this body, first of all, as a soul. Yeah. And therefore, there's so many different modalities that also answer to that, right? Like family constellation. That's what they're talking about, the soul movement, and how a lot of times the unborn, they actually create a lot of dynamics as well. And also the people who are living, but if they are, in a sense, isolated or alienated from the family, then someone else in the family system would play out the dynamics.
Right.
Just so that it can be healed, so that it can be remembered that we have this person in our family, in our constellation. So this is really important. It's so pertinent to so many women out there, because there is so many. I mean, birth itself is such a mysterious, creative, and beautiful thing, and then at the same time, there's so many technicalities that's surrounding it that we've never explored, right? Including how do we nurture the baby in the womb? Because when you talk about being unwanted, right, babies who are born out of wedlock is one. But how about those of us, like even for myself, I come from a family of 5 girls. I'm the 4th of 5 girls. And I'm from a Chinese family, and you can imagine that, it's always been,
they wanted
we want
boys.
A boy, right? And back in the day, they do not have scanning, and they are not able to tell the gender of the baby. So I am inside my mom's womb, and I'm like feeling unwanted all the time because my mom is wondering, is this gonna be a boy? If this is not gonna be a boy, are we all gonna be in trouble? And I'm so tired of, trying to bear a boy. And if this is not a boy, I'm really like, I don't want to have a child anymore. So all of that conditioning in utero, I'm listening to all of that information. So when I was growing up, I always had that sense of, I am better than a boy.
Competitive, Scarlett.
Competitive. When I was younger, I was really competitive with the boys for no good reason. I didn't understand back then. But through the journey of so many years of healing myself, I realized that I was contending with this, unseen competitor, not the boys in actual life. It's actually that sense of, I needed to prove that I'm better than a boy so that I can justify my existence in this lifetime.
And this is a very important one, especially when you come as a healer.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You come already bearing a profession or bearing a work, a purpose in life that is rather not yet as acceptable as other professions.
It's a journey of self-acceptance. And for women, it's that, right? Because there's been so many years of generations of patriarchal autonomy over women, and there's so much things that we bear as women, so many things to relook at.
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel like the first part must be starting from, let's look at birth, let's look at how can we heal all of these.
Exactly. I came to observe that because a lot of my clients came because they were having problems with their mindsets about money and business not going well, and I found myself intuitively talking about these rituals that we have in Bali that actually help aborted souls pass on to the light, and then it's also healing for the mothers, because oftentimes I notice that when you have pattern that you cannot break in terms of financial problem, that usually the issue, and the person I'm talking to would be looking at me like, how do you know? And I said, I don't. I was just talking about something really in general.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that come, and I felt, this could be prevented, right? First of all, it's such an unfortunate thing to having to go through that experience, right? And then having to kind of be punished for something that you're already suffering about. And then not knowing where this punishment would end. Once it's from your own guilt, and then, of course, having to keep that such a secret for yourself. And nowadays, with so many modalities about family going on, a transgenerational issue also look at that holding a secret that you don't resolve, holding a shame will be passed down, will affect your constellation.
Yes.
And I felt that I think this is very important that we brought a light to this subject, that for us women, there's no shame on carrying life.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So when I was first pregnant and I was not married and I was deciding whether or not to keep the child, one of the things I did was this is 13 years ago. And I actually went onto Google and I Googled what did women say about being a single unwed mother. And I remember searching through 15 pages of Google. I kid you not, I went into every single link. I went into every single forum, every single blog that people had, and I read everything the women said. And what I found was, after 15 pages and hundreds of women and their stories and their voices, I realized that everyone who chose to keep their children, they are happy about it. And maybe there's a little bit of a link to money as well. I'm not sure about that part. I feel there is, because they all talk about how they struggled with it. But it was the best decision they ever made, they said, even if it was difficult, that they kept their baby. And out of that 15 pages of Googles and hundreds of women's voices, there were only 2 that said, oh, I chose not to keep my child, and I'm at peace with it because I know that at that point in time I wasn't ready and I wasn't able to support the child. And because of that 15 pages of Googling, I decided to keep my child actually I've already made a decision to keep. But I was kind of, like 70% of me wanted to keep it, and I was just like searching for evidence. And I realized that after 15 pages, everyone almost, except for 2, said that they were happy to keep. Then I started computing in my head. I said, this does not make sense. It doesn't compute because I know that there are many, 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 many women who aborted their children. And where are they? Why are they not speaking up about it? And already back then I had that deep down sense of they regret it, or they are in pain and they're not ready to talk about it.
Are they in such a place that they're not going to talk about it?
Ever. Because it's a shameful thing for a lot of people.
Yeah,
right?
it's a shameful thing. It's a traumatic thing. And it affects everything as a woman.
Yeah.
And because we are supposed to be, we are the carrier of life. Like, we bear the life.
Yes.
We give birth to the life.
Yeah.
And I would also like to share in this podcast that you can heal from this. Like,
Absolutely. I mean, there are many, many ways to heal from that. And like for me, one of the biggest things that I felt was important for my child was that I've never kept the secret from her. Like even when she was in utero, even though I was having pain and sadness at that point in time, I've always told her that you are wanted and you are loved. You just love in a different way. And I said, even if your biological father is not here, he loves you. Because even though he's not going to be a part of our life, there is love there. Because you're created from love. And then as she was growing up, I've always told her, like, okay, this is your biological father, but we're not together. And I would, really share what's going on so that there's no secrets. Because I know that it's important for her to know where she came from.
Yes.
Why is it that she doesn't have a father, figure around her? Yeah. So I felt like if only more truths can come to light, if only more women can share. And I remember that even for myself, right, when I first did a family constellation for myself, and I realized that, wow, all my unborn siblings were addressed. And that was so good for me because I had one particular brother that I felt very close affinity with. He never made it to life.
Yeah.
And as a healer, as someone who practiced energy work, as someone who's done meditation and tuning into it, what I realized was, just a few years ago I was laughing about it, but I felt like, oh wow, I'm in a place to laugh about it. But back then it's such a sad thing because in my family he would have had no chance as a boy, because that sense of all the women trying to come into autonomy and power, he would have been squashed. He would have been like, totally, it would have been a miserable life in a family of women trying to, prove themselves. Imagine that kind of energy, that competitiveness.
Yeah. And we are talking about this not to point fingers at anybody. What we are offering on the table is that healing is possible. Healing is possible from your shame, from your pain, from your guilt. And I think every soul deserves liberation. And your brother deserves to go home.
Yeah, everyone should be freed, right?
Right.
Whether they make it into body or not.
Yeah.
And then everyone who has experienced that should be free, freer at least, if not totally,
Yes.
depending on where you are in your own journey, to really open up and share about this. Because when we have to do something like that, right, it's a big decision whether to carry a life or not to carry a life.
Yeah. And I think we have gone past the time to judge anyone or any event or circumstances. We're not going to judge you. But we're here when you're ready to speak out. And we are encouraging dear friends, dear women, to reach out because healing is possible. Having that said, out in the table, we're moving on to a greater topic today, which is how do you love yourself after such experience?
Wow. Wow. It's a lot of self-acceptance. It's a lot of self-acceptance, and there is a lot that if you are someone who is keen to look for answers, I would say that there are a lot of traditions that talk about these kind of topics. I would definitely encourage people to read up a little bit more on a soul level. What are the various situations, agreements, contracts, and to explore also that part of the healing work. But if not, then at least on a human level, we need to understand that things happen like that all the time, right? It happens all the time. For my mom, I kind of shared with her, I said that, like, you don't have to feel all of that. Like, so many people in history, so many women in history have given birth to children before they are married. Many people have never ever gotten married, right? I mean, if you look at it, back in the days, there's no legality around marriages, and if there's a ceremony, great. If there's no ceremony, then how do you decide whether you are, actually married or not, right? And I don't feel like it's like the marriage ceremony, although important, is also only one part of life. Yeah. And for her, she actually did get married. It was just that, whatever happened before. So rather than carrying what she thinks the world think of it, I feel like it's so important for us to really look at, does the world really care? I think one of the biggest questions that we always need to ask ourselves is, whatever we think other people are thinking, is it really true? Or are we the only ones that's sitting here in our own little corner and, thinking that, oh my gosh, people are going to judge me. It's such a shameful thing, But I know that one thing that always affects us is, how will this be if I share my story? What is it for the other people around me? So around those sensitivities, yes, there's always that sense of, I can't tell this story because, the one whom I am impacting as a result of my sharing, I need to think about those people. Then I will definitely encourage that you need to look for a practitioner. You need to look for a coach, a healer, a therapist, a healer, and you need to have a sacred witness who can just be the one listening to you and to support you, whether it's a coaching, whether it's an energy work, whether it's a ritual, a ceremony. You have to get that support for yourself. Yeah, because whatever is unspoken of, sometimes it's just like buried deep. Yeah. So you're not healing from it, you're just bearing it. So if you are able to open up to someone that can support you out of it, to support you to embrace it, then, that would be a very, very big part of self-healing, self-acceptance, self-loving. Because if we can love that part of ourselves that needs help, if we're able to be vulnerable and say, I need someone to walk me through this so that I can understand, or at least to, have a closure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Then you're on to your peaceful life. Find the peace within.
Find a peace within, and whether you decide to share it in future with the people closer to you or not, then that's a different story. It will happen in due time if it's needed. And if it's not needed and you're healed and you're at peace, then that's great. Yeah.
I remember in one of the episodes earlier that you talk about having trust. You have talk about having trust towards yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, because it's about hearing that intuition, the intuitive part of you. And if your intuitive part of you is telling you that, this particular person or this particular healer, this particular ceremony, this particular modality will help me, then, listen to that part that is asking. And you also mentioned, right, that sometimes when you listen to that intuition, what follows is actually a fear, because the fear is it safe for me to do that? Is this my intuitive voice? Can I trust this intuitive voice? And that's the part that comes in. Learn to trust that. Learn to work with that. Because whatever is supportive of you that's coming from love, then that's what you really need. So you ask yourself, is this something loving for myself? Yeah. Is this what love would do? Many other teachers of self-love have taught that, right? The question to ask yourself is, what would love do? In this situation, what would love do?
Yep. So, dear ladies, what would love do to you? And what would it take for you to step out of the shadow, into the light, find someone you trust that will help you walk your path? Healing is possible. And if there is any patterns in your life that you find impossible to break, there are always other ways to look at it. It might not be a logical explanation. It might not be a logical solution that can help you, but somewhere in maybe in a different part of the world, there is still an ancient tradition that is actually available to humankind to help you heal.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for sharing with us this piece of your life. You know, we've talked so much on Instagram Live, and whenever you said, "Oh, I'm a unwed single mother," I always felt
something to it,
right.
right?
Yeah, I always felt,
Yeah.
wow. She said it so easily.
Oh, okay.
And I know that in the audience, somebody also went, so we can go together, but
Yeah.
now we can release it. We can delete. There's no need to be shameful about it, and healing is always possible.
Yes.
Scarlett, messages to the audience.
Message to the audience. I feel like every single woman and every single man, every single soul out here needs to know that if you're here, right, then you're here for good. You're here for a purpose, and every single person that is here in body right now, you are in the right place. You are where you belong. We all need to work on that. Because even I sometimes will have that flash across my head and like, oh my gosh, do I truly belong here? We all truly belong here. If we're here, then that's where we are, and we need to find the right tools and the right ways to help us to settle in fully into it's safe to be here. And since it's like I'm here for good, I might as well, have fun. I might as well really go out there and just be who I am. And I can't change other people, but I can change the essence of who I am. And I'm going to have joy, and I'm going to be myself regardless, of what people think, how the people in my family are acting. The more we become at ease and the more we work on ourselves to accept who we are, regardless of our family members, then that's how we can impact all the other family members. And like for those of us who have actually been through the journey of being a mother as well, or those who are wanting to have children, it's even more important to address this piece. Yeah. So that's what I have to say, and maybe more. But we'll see in time to come.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dear friends, I'm speechless. Please visit our website and visit our Instagram and look at our programs. And there will be something for you. There will be something for your ladies. And there will be more things that we will offer to help you reach that safe space and love yourself and trust yourself even more. And until then, see you again. Sampai jumpa. Salam.